why do those small moments or small ideas, why do they have to be so small? Designers tend to make big ideas to make a big difference, but I try not to think of it that way. There's a thing called the butterfly effect. I think it was part of the chaos theory or something, but it was like a butterfly flying in Shanghai or Beijing or something, and the wind which is created by that butterfly, so it develops, and then by the time the wind goes to, I don't know, Seattle or some Texas, or it becomes this strong wind, it becomes like a tornado. I feel that design should be something like that. It shouldn't start from big things, big ideas, but it has to start from small ideas, very, very tiny ideas that not many people would even care. But gradually, those small ideas would develop into something big in the end. That would be the ideal way of designing things. So when I was studying architecture in school, I was told by my teacher to see things from a very high point of view. First designing the city, designing the streets, and then thinking about how the buildings should be designed, and then thinking about the interiors, and then the furniture and the objects that are placed on the furniture. That's the way design should be. It's like a top-down way of thinking of things. But after 10 years of working, I feel totally the opposite way. I think I would like to start from a very small object like this glass, and then I can think about how the table should be, how the room should be, and the building, and then gradually that small idea for this glass could develop into the city, like a bottom-up way of thinking of things. This would be my way of thinking. So it's more like the media, I guess. It's not like televisions or newspapers, they give you all this information, but now we have the social media that somebody on the other side of the world would notice that is interesting, and then it develops into huge information at the end. I think that is exactly the way design works at this time. Then I guess the next question would be, how can we find these small moments in everyday life? And I think that there are several tips, maybe 3 or 4. The first thing is not to focus on things. When you start focusing, when you think about trying to design this glass, you really look at glass objects, or you start researching. What you're doing is you're ignoring the good stuff around it. When you focus, it means that the surroundings, you're not seeing it correctly. So I try not to see the object itself, but to see things in a blurry way. That really helps me to find these small ideas. So it's the totally opposite way that the teachers tell you to focus on what you're doing or something like that. The next thing would be to relax and not to find things. It's like something, you lose your keys or your mobile phone or something, and you try to look for it. You try to find it, but it's never there. And then you're doing something else, and then it just pops out. It's something like that. When you try to find ideas, you never find interesting ideas, because everyone's trying to find interesting ideas. It's more like you are like a net or a filter or something. It's not like fishing. You're not putting the bait and things like that, but you're just a net, you're just going through the water, and then all these stuff like garbage or small fish or things would be caught in the net. And then sometimes you find something that is small but quite interesting. And that's the way I try to design, that's the way I try to try to catch maybe small ideas. The next tip would be, I guess a lot of designers, they hate routine work. They want to do something different every day, but that doesn't help me in any way. I go to the same cafe, have the same cappuccino, I walk to the same streets, and then I walk to the park. At lunchtime, I go to the same restaurant, I have the same bowl of noodles. It's a boring life, I'm a boring person. But that really helps me the way I design things. When you keep on continuing the same things every day, you notice those small differences in everyday life. So when you see like a small a and a large b, you don't think anything, it's just a small a and a large b. But when you see a, b, you notice that there's a large b, there's something there, there's a slight difference. You notice that there's a small moment there. So that's the way I try to find ideas. So I noticed that there's a small d here, and then there's a small 6 maybe, I don't know. It's something like that. It's something that is continuous, and then you bump into small ideas. And then when you find these ideas, it's about how to record that idea into your brain, because I feel that the brain is made to forget things, I guess, especially the small things. People tend to forget. So what I try to do is to convert that idea from the right brain to the left brain, or is it the other way, or whatever. I try to think logically why I felt that way. Why do I feel so? Let's say there's a glass filled with water here in the middle of the table. I feel safe. But when this comes over here, for instance, I get a bit worried when I'm talking. It's something like that. Why do I feel worried? You think that way. And then I think, how could I create that emotion by designing things? That is design for me. It's not about creating different shapes or forms or materials, colors. That comes later on, I guess. It's more about how people feel about things, or how people feel about that situation. And then, after 10 years of creating this boring routine, I noticed that there are several small rules in that small, surprising moment. And that is, it felt like A instead of B. So this sounds kind of strange, but okay, so first there's something that seems very solid and heavy, but it's soft. So it felt soft instead of solid or hard. It's something like that. Those create those small emotions. Or there's this long corridor, but when you're walking, you bump into a mirror. So you thought it was a long corridor, but actually there was a large mirror reflecting the corridor. Things like that. Or you're walking down the street and you thought it started to rain or something. But actually there was a guy sneezing on top of you or something like that. This is a nice spot. You thought it was rain, but it was something else. I think this is a very basic rule. This is the basic rule when you're thinking about small ideas. And excuse me. And so, as a designer, I would try to think, how could I make it feel like A instead of B? And that way I can create these small moments in everyday life. So the thing is, there is a slight difference to design A and to design something that feels like A. There is a big difference, and I would prefer the one that feels like A. Because to design A is, you have to design the object. There is a physical reality. It is the object. But when you try to think about something that feels like A, it's something that is in people's minds. I think it's slightly different, the way people feel it is A. So that means I have this broadness. I feel very free and flexible in a way when I start thinking about ideas. This is a very old painting called "This Is Not a Pipe." It's one of my favorite paintings, but so if this is not a pipe, what is it? It's something that feels like a pipe, but it's not, I guess. So that's the way it generates your imagination in a way. You're letting your mind free because it's not a pipe. It's something that feels like a pipe. So you have all this freedom to think about what is it. it creates space for you inside of your mind. This is exactly the way I try to see things, try to work on things, and to design things.